We're going to kick it off.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Malden School Committee.
Recording in progress.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Malden School Committee. Today is Monday, October 3rd, 2022. The time is 6:00 p.m. Our next meeting will take place on Monday, November 14th at 6 p.m. here in the council chamber. The order of the agenda this evening is as follows. We will first pledge allegiance to our flag. We'll then have a couple of moments of silence, including one for our veterans, as we always do. And then we will have the roll taken to ensure that we have a quorum sufficient to allow us to meet this evening. And then we will take up the agenda, which consists of the minutes from September 12th, followed by public comment. Then we'll hear from our superintendent, which will cover district updates and highlights, as well as the introduction of our new supervisor of attendance. I don't see anything under subcommittee reports, so we will then go to motions and resolutions, where we will take up an item regarding the sabbatical leave of absence, which will be led by Ms. Spadafora, followed by the approval of the supervisor of attendance contract by Ms. Spadafora. Then we'll take moments of personal privilege, if anyone has any, and then we will entertain a motion to go into executive session for two purposes. One is to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for our next bargaining session with units A, B, and C, as well as to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with SEIU Local 888 custodial and cafeteria units. Then we will return to open session where we will move adjournment if there aren't any motions from executive session. So are there any questions of the members before we begin? Hearing none, I would ask everyone to now please rise and salute our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence in honor of all those who have fought for our country and continue to do so today. Please remain standing as we will now do another moment of silence, which will be led by Mr. Weldine.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At the request of the chair, I would like to offer a moment of silence in honor of Ravi Khanna, who was Shirley Durai, our school committee clerk's husband. I have known Ravi for a number of years as a fierce debater, someone who cares deeply about social justice and about not just Malden, but the community, the greater community. But I knew Ravi first as the extremely devoted and caring dad of Priya and Quinn, who were both students in the Malden Public Schools. And I know what a wonderful dad he was and how much he cared about his kids and how much he cared about this community. So I'd like to offer a moment of silence for Ravi.
Okay, and then finally over to Mr. Bernard. Let me turn your mic on, Mr. Bernard. Go right ahead.
I just want to go and ask for a quick moment of silence because it's October is Breast Cancer Month and Breast Cancer Awareness, and having had several members of my family that have gone and passed from this, and knowing so many people that have been survivors, I'd just like to go and have us all just take a quick moment of silence for that.
Thank you. We will now have the roll call, but before we do, we're going to have our superintendent introduce our newest member to the team.
Thank you, Mayor. This is amazing. We have an amazing student, Miriam Hakanowi. She is a senior of the Malden High School. She is enrolled in AP and honor classes. She has played, and she plays volleyball for the past 3 years at the high school, as well as in the softball team. But she has been doing this since grade 7, great athlete. She's also a member of the National Honor Society, Feminism Club, and the band. So please go to the football games, and you're going to see her there. She wants to learn more about her role, representing all the voices of our students, not just from the high school, but also from middle and elementary school. So welcome aboard. Yay.
Great. All right, now let's take the roll to ensure that we can legally meet. And let me turn it over to Ms. Spadafora.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Drumming? Here. Mr. McCarthy? Here. Ms. Spadafora here. Ms. Macklin? Here. Mr. Weldy?
Here.
Mr. Gray? Mr. Bernard?
Here.
Ms. Rose Iberg? Here. Mayor Gary Christensen?
Here.
Superintendent Lahia Noriega Murphy?
Here.
Thank you. So we have a quorum sufficient to allow us to meet this evening. Before we get into the agenda, we will now introduce our translation services for the meeting.
All right,
Thank
Danielle, kick it over to you.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Mayor Gary. Good evening, everyone. We will be providing interpretation in 8 languages as usual. ASL is already on. Thank you, Jenna. And we'll go ahead and give the instructions to access the interpretation channels. For English speakers, if there are any questions in other languages, to hear them, you will need to join the English channel by clicking the globe at the bottom of your screen and clicking on English. I'll now give the instructions in Arabic. مساء الخير السلام عليكم لدينا ترجمة باللغة العربية إذا أردتم الاستماع إلى الترجمة اضغط على رمز الكرة الأرضية في أسفل الشاشة ثم قم باختيار اللغة العربية أو Arabic. إذا كنت على هاتف محمول عليك أن تضغط على 3 نقط في أسفل الشاشة ثم اضغط على ترجمة باللغات أو Language Interpretation ثم اللغة العربية أو Arabic وأخيرا كلمة تم أو done. Shukran jazilan, and I will pass it on to Spanish.
Hi, my name is Emily, and I will be providing Spanish interpretation this evening. Buenas noches, todo el mundo. Mi nombre es Emily. Voy a proporcionar servicios de interpretación en español esta noche. En un momentico vamos a encender la función de interpretación. Así simplemente ubícase al fondo de su ventana de Zoom y hacer clic en el icono del globo y de ahí escoger Spanish. Si se está conectando con móvil, empuje los 3 puntitos, escoge Interpretation, pues Spanish, pues Done. Si tiene cualquier dificultad, por favor comunícase con nosotros tras el chat. Buenas noches. And now I will pass it on to Vietnamese.
Good evening. My name is Lynn. Tôi là người thông dịch tiếng Việt của quý vị hôm nay. Một khi chúng tôi đã kích hoạt tính năng phiên dịch, xin vui lòng bấm vào biểu tượng quả địa cầu trên màn hình và chọn ngôn ngữ là tiếng Việt Vietnamese để được nghe phiên dịch trực tiếp. Nếu quý vị đang dùng điện thoại thông minh smartphone, xin bấm vào Interpretation rồi sau đó chọn tiếng Việt Vietnamese, sau đó là xong. Xin cảm ơn. Thank you, and I'm pass it on to Portuguese.
Boa noite, gente. Você é um intérprete de português esta noite, então se precisar de interpretação em português, daqui a pouco a gente vai ligar a função de interpretação. Então, o que vai fazer, se for no computador, vai clicar ali abaixo à direita, os 3 pontos, o globinho, daí vai escolher português. Se tiver no celular, vai clicar abaixo nos 3 pontinhos que diz mais. Daí vai escolher a interpretação e depois português. Muito obrigado. I'm gonna pass to Haitian Creole.
You're on mute, Nikita.
My name is Nikita Lamo. I'm the Haitian Creole interpreter for Zeta languages tonight. Tout le monde, nom c'est Nikita Lamom, c'est ma interprétation pour Rosetta en languages. Si vous activez sous l'interprétation sous Zoom, sur l'ordinateur, tant pis, vous cliquez interprétation à petit globe, vous cliquez à bord droite globe blanc, et puis on choisit Haitian Creole. Parfois, on finit comme French too. Si vous connectez dans le téléphone, vous cliquez trois petits points qui sont dans le coin à droite là, et puis vous pouvez sur l'écran côté écrit more. Dans more là, vous cliquez Language Interpretation, vous choisissez Haitian Creole, et puis vous cliquez Done, qui veut dire fini. So, si vous avez n'importe question, vous mettez l'écrit dans le chat là, n'a pas répondre non. D'accord? Merci. Kounia m'a passé by Mandarin. Now I'm going to pass it to Terry for Mandarin.
Thank you, Nikita. Hi, everybody. My name is Terry. I'll be your Mandarin interpreter for the meeting tonight. 大家好，我叫 Terry， 我会是你们今天的国语翻译。待会你在屏幕下方会看到一个地球仪的图标，你点选地球仪的图标，然后再选择 Mandarin， 你就可以进入到国语的频道了。如果你是用手机或者是平板电脑上来的话呢，您可以选择屏幕下方的3个点，然后再选择Mandarin， 也可以进入到国语的频道。好的，谢谢大家。I'll pass it to Cantonese. Anna, go ahead.
Thank you, Terry. Good evening, everyone. I'm Anna. I am your Cantonese interpreter for the meeting tonight. 大家好，我係 Anna。我哋今天晚上嘅廣東話翻譯員，一陣間見到個地球嘅時候咧，撳落去揀廣東話就會去到廣東話嘅翻譯頻道噶啦。如果用手機嘅話咧，撳個3個點，再揀更多，亦都會到廣東話嘅翻譯頻道噶啦。唔該晒，一陣間見。Back to you, Danielle. Thank you.
Thank you, team. And Adam, before you turn on the channels, I have a small request. Would you be able to promote our other ASL interpreter to a panelist? I see him under his email here, athmists@aol.com. That's James.
I was just going to ask you about him. All right, promotes a panelist, and he should be joining us any second.
Thank you so much. All right, and then you may go ahead and add the rest of us to the channels. Interpreters, make sure that you are not on mute, that everyone can hear your voice loud and clear. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, we are going to go live now. And we're good to go.
And as always, members, let's speak slowly when we are talking this evening so the translators have the time to do the translation for us. So the first order of business is the approval of minutes. And seeing that they have not been prepared on account of our clerk having that family issue, I would entertain a motion to table.
Motion to table.
Motion by Ms. Spadafora, seconded by Mr. Bernard. Any questions? So we're going to hold these over until November, if there's no objection. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. That carries unanimously. We're now at item number 2. This is public comment. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address the school committee. We only ask that you state your name and address for the record, and please keep your comments to just 2 minutes. Public comment is now open, and Mr. Weldy will lead us in that section of the agenda.
Great. Just as a reminder for our folks on Zoom, you just need to use the raise hand feature or dial *9 if you're on the telephone, and we'll alternate between Zoom and in person. So we'll start with in person.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Dawn Marie O'Toole, and I live at 130 Adams Street in Malden. I am the mother of a junior at Malden High, who I am sure has had the pleasure of interviewing some of you for the Blue and Gold, and of a recent Malden High graduate. I am also an educational support professional at the BB School in the integrated kindergarten. I was a silent rep at the most recent bargaining session, and I am asking, how do we fix our Chapter 70 funding? After hearing how much cities like Lynn, Chelsea, Everett, and Revere are getting, between approximately $43 million and roughly approximately $15 million, and Malden is only getting approximately $2,100,000. I was floored. Please, As our school committee and administration, I ask, no, I implore you to find a way to fix our Chapter 70 funding. This is the way our children, our students, and our staff will be able to receive what they need. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to address the school committee can do so now.
Seeing none online, we can take another in person.
Welcome.
So my name's Dr. Liz Tanagbanwa, and I am at 31 Grace Street. I'm going to go first, then Amalia's going to go. So, dear Dr. Noriega Murphy, Mayor Christensen, and school committee members, we write as members of the BB School Site Council to express concern about the elementary guidance counselor position that was eliminated from the BB school budget for this school year. Guidance counselors are essential staff and are needed more than ever. In fact, the demand for psychological services are at all-time highs, especially among children. Please understand, without an appropriate ratio of guidance counselors to students in a school setting, challenging interpersonal dynamics, stress from home life that goes unmanaged, and academic worries, etc., can have a child go from having a concern that is difficult to navigate to needing acute care when the issues get neglected without the professional resources available at school. We urge you to find a way to reinstate the elementary guidance counselor role at the BB immediately. Secondly, we remind you that equal is not equitable. Dr. Murphy strategized to keep the role in the school budget, not be a grant-reliant position. Unlike the other K-8 schools whose principals made other budgetary decisions, the elementary guidance counselor role was a fixed part of the operational budget. The members of the BB School Site Council, parents, educators, and community members were able to name several students already whose difficult situations were further compounded by not having access to the former guidance counselor, Ms. Taylor, who they had come to count on for social emotional support. Students need someone at BB whose sole responsibility it is to provide meaningful check-ins, promote individualized coping strategies, and emotional safety devoted to the students in grades K-4. During a pandemic, mental health roles must be increased, not reduced during this challenging time. The BB School Site Council believes that losing this essential role is to the detriment of all students this year. The role needs to be reinstated promptly. We request a written response to this request. Respectfully, Dr. Liz Tanagbanwa, Stacy Rubin, Dr. Murphy, Yihua Zhang, Christopher Fitzpatrick, and Sherry Toll-Jackson. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Good evening.
Hi, my name is Amalia. I am a 4th grader at the BB. I want to let you know that having a guidance counselor at the BB is helpful to me, and I think others too. Last year, Ms. Taylor was available for check-ins and lunch bunch groups. She would help me with my feelings when I needed extra support about trouble with friendships. We would play games to help me better understand different feelings, and I got to practice using I statements. I came to rely on Ms. Taylor, just like I rely on all my other teachers who teach me new ideas and skills. It is essential you bring back a guidance counselor for elementary students. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Well done. Anybody else? Hearing none?
And seeing none on Zoom.
All right, we're going to close that portion of the meeting. We'll now move to the next item on the agenda, which is an update from our superintendent as to what's happening across the district. So let's go to our superintendent.
Hi, good evening. I just got the news, like right now, thank you, Mr. Mastrangelo, that our amazing Director of Athletics, Charlie Connerfree, just won the district award of the Athletic Director of the Year. So congratulations to Charlie. So yeah, thank you, that's awesome. And thank you for sharing that information right away, thank you. I want to start by celebrating the Indigenous Peoples' Day. We know that it's going to happen on October 10. Last year, Mayor Christensen made it as an official day, so we want to celebrate that. And as you can see, this is a celebration that took place 2 Saturdays ago at close to the river, where there was the blessing of the river. So that was great to celebrate with the Nipmuc Nation staff. We also have to celebrate that our school and our district, as you can see, is #1 out of 239 schools, one of the most diverse school districts in Massachusetts. And in the nation, we are #8, the most diverse school district in America. So we are very proud of our diversity in our schools. And we embrace it every single day. With the updates that I'm going to give is the district enrollment. It's going to be individual schools by grade level. We are going to compare the end of the school year data in terms of enrollment. This is a request that, Mayor, you had last meeting. It's going to be from the year 2018 to present. We are going to give an update on the Welcome Center, most about our open positions, about the AEAP program, COVID, and transportation. So we can start with the enrollment in our schools. In here you can find it by per school and the enrollment per grade level, and these numbers change all the time. So whatever I'm presenting today might be different next week. So as of today, we have, as of October 2nd, we have 6,391 students enrolled in our schools. And once again, if you're interested in each school, it's there, you have it by name. And we also have out-of-district and private schools numbers included. We are going to, the comparative data is, in the year 2018-2019, we had 6,464 students. This is at the end of school year. So in comparison to what we have now, is very similar. So we know that last year we started very short-handed with 5,000 students, but now we're going back to pre-pandemic numbers. So you can just go over the data and see that we are trying to increase our enrollment in our schools and in the district. Next. We have the Welcome Center, and in the Welcome Center we have in queue. That means that some applications still need some paperwork in order to be processed and for students to be processed and be admitted in our school. So we have 21 kindergarten applications that are in the queue, and we have 94 incomplete applications, and the staff is working very hard contacting parents and to let them know what pieces are missing of the application. So we hope that by the next time I have to report to you on the enrollment of the district, all the students will be officially enrolled in our school. Due to the enrollment in our schools, we also have a waiting list at BB for the first and fourth graders. We are running at capacity in those grades. The same thing with Fairway. Our grades already at a capacity with first and second graders. Then we have the MOST program, which is the after-school programs. And we have, as you can see, a waiting list. What we are trying to do is hire more staff. So it's not that we are running at capacity, it's that we are not able to hire staff or people who want to work after school. So if you know anybody or you are willing to apply, we would like to eliminate that waiting list by opening all those seats to our wonderful students. We know that we need more after-school programs. We can open them, but without staff, we cannot actually sustain them. So if you know anybody who would like to work after school, please let us know right away. Then we have the open positions. This is the same information that you have in the website. And the ones that don't have any highlights, those are the positions that are not processed yet. They're purely open. So if you know, once again, if you know people that are looking for jobs, these are the positions that we're offering. We do have, you can see it per school. As a district, we have 59 openings. And 11 of them are long-term substitutes that we are foreseeing that people are going to go on leave because of many different situations. So we already are posting them in order to make sure that there's not going to be a gap with teachers leaving and then not being able to find them. We have 21 para positions posted, and one of the things that we are doing is we have a subcontract with the Precision HR where we are getting paraprofessionals that come to help us because we know we need them in our classes. Therefore, you will see a lot of jobs posting for paraprofessionals. In most of the places, there's a person doing the job, just that as we want to continue being able to hire people, so when they apply, we can actually say, we can actually send the other person from the agency to another school supporting a different capacity, or to diminish the number of paraprofessionals from the contract services. So that's where you will see a lot of jobs with paraprofessionals, but we do need paraprofessionals in all our schools. Thank you. The update with the AEAP is that they have 3 meetings as the working group. They have reviewed the enrollment assessments, the data and attendance, and also Ms. Emily Speña, the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Instruction and Assessment, was able to meet with a group of teachers that attended the Yukon conference in the summer, and she was able to gather some information about the experience with the conference. So if you want to know more about it, we can provide you with that information. With the COVID cases, we continue cleaning our buildings. We try to make sure that hand sanitizers are available in the entrance. We have masks if people want to wear their masks, and they are available also in the main entrances and in every single office. We continue monitoring the cases, so thank you to our wonderful school nurses. We don't have to, but we are trying to monitor all of them, all the cases that are reported. So as of 10/29, actually, it should say 9/29, so my mistake, yes, 9/29, since we opened school to 9/29, 37 staff member cases and 112 students. And we also still using the rapid test. It's available when faculty and staff and students need it. But once again, we are just monitoring this because it's best practices, not because it is mandated by the state. Okay, next. Thank you. Transportation, I want to thank school committee members, Ms. Spadafora and also Ms. Don Macklin, for being part of those weekly meetings with NRT. So every Friday we have conversations with them, trying to troubleshoot, trying to make sure that all of our buses are running on time. Thanks to Pamela McDonald, the Assistant Superintendent of Special Services for Students, who created a tracker. So in every school, we try to make sure that we know when the students arrive and when they depart. We want to make sure that we are working together with NRT to ensure the best services for all our students. They were able to hire drivers, and we are just trying to make sure that we are in touch with families if anything's going to happen with a bus. One thing that we are going to pilot in this district is going to be Find My Bus. It's going to be principals first, where we can actually track where the buses are, how far from the school, and eventually it will go also for parents. So you will be able to, instead of calling the school or trying to find what's going on with the bus, if it's delayed or something, you can go into your phone and be able to track the bus number. Thank you. I just want to go back to the instructional focus for the district, and that is literacy and numeracy. And I want to talk especially about to reduce the chronic absenteeism. We have a beautiful calendar that I would love for parents and students, and we talk with the principals today that we can make it more public. So where students come to school 180 days, 185 if snow comes, but I knock on wood. If you look at every month, it's not that many days that students are actually in school per month. So if we look at the month of November, it's only 18 days. December is 17 days. February, 15 days. So when we talk about students and attendance, which last year we had a lot of students that missed a lot of days of school, is that parents, please, if you can help us and caregivers to break this down per month, so students can see that, they should come to school. It's only 15 days, 20 days, and break it down in small pieces, and knowing that school is great, they're going to learn and have fun, but we want to make sure that they are going to come to our schools. In order to do this, there's a lot of things that we have been doing since last year to prevent the chronic absenteeism. And one of them, I'm going to publicly introduce the Supervisor of Attendance. At this moment, we have two, so I want to first reintroduce Mr. Julio Perez. Julio Perez is coming to be the Supervisor of Attendance. He's going to be working very closely with Mr. John Parcelin, who I would love for John to also stand. Because, John, can you please stand so people can see you? Don't be shy. You are not shy. Come on. Thank you, thank you. And I wanted him to stand because he has done this work for so many years, and now he is actually getting somebody else ready that in January, he's going to transition. Julio is going to transition to be the only Supervisor of Attendance. So thank you, Julio. Julio has 16 years of experience working with students, including students with disabilities. He worked in Lawrence and Everett. And he has 2 children, a daughter of 19 years old and a 3-year-old boy. He is fully bilingual, bicultural, and we are very happy to have you. Welcome on board. In order to prevent the chronic absenteeism, last year we started with the high school. Now it's going to be implemented in every single school, and that is the early warning indicators. We are going to be monitoring data to provide support students, interventions, and follow-up. This is going to be bi-weekly meetings about attendance. We want to make sure that we are going to send automatic calls to families when the students are not coming to school, or they are just skipping classes. Our high school is always the pioneer of trying new things. They just got something called Smart Pass apps, where students have to create their own passes to go to classes, and this is how we monitor how many minutes the students are out of class and how many minutes they spend in the hallways, which I have to say, spending a lot of time in the school, I don't see that many students in the hallways at all. And if they're in the hallways, the first thing they do is like, Miss, I have a pass, I have a pass. I have a pass, which is a great thing. So we are going to pilot at the high school to see if we can implement it in the K-2 next year. We are going to provide caregiver support, and that is with Aspen. If parents, you want to know how to use Aspen to monitor your children's grades, attendance, please let us know. We will be glad to train you on how to use Aspen, which is the student information system for the district. Now we are going to we're going to talk about the data about MCAS. It's not a lot of data, or the way that I love data, because we just got this on the 29th. It was when it was released to the public. And go ahead, thank you. With MCAS data, we know that there were there was a year where MCAS was not given to the students, and that was 2020. In 2021, from grades 3 to 8, only half of the students actually took the test. And over 10th graders in the year 2022 had never taken MCAS because we stopped giving it to them. So this is going to be the first time they're going to take MCAS, which is last year was the first time that they took the MCAS. So this is very interesting that we are going to talk about pre-pandemic and recovery. And there's no data for the year 2020. We also look at that students miss a lot of days of school, and that's actually, yeah, I know. Thank you. Thank you. Going back to accountability. This year, the state has decided to not to include the profiles of the schools yet with how far we are towards making progress toward the targets, because they're still adjusting some of the data, and at the same time, they want to give us time to explore more ways of how we are going to support our students. We also are going to create a new baseline. What is happening in the past is that there was a formula applied to every single year, and it stopped in 2019, and then they readjusted the formula on how they look at accountability in the year 2021. So therefore, whatever our scores are for this year, or 22, I'm sorry, for the year 22, that is going to be the new baseline on how we are going to be measured. So if we did very, very well, we had to do extra well, because now these are going to be the targets and the baseline data. There was also an indication, MCAS, ELA, and math, that there were some dips in data, and we know that because students were going through a lot. It was a lot for everybody. It was a lot for families, for students. With the writing, we also saw that there was a decline in the essays, so many people actually finishing the essays. So you can read this, but one thing I just want to focus on is the accountability. You are going to, through this presentation, you're going to hear about baseline data. That means that whatever we did in 2022 is going to be the way that we are going to be measured next year against. Pre-pandemic is the year 2019. Signs of recovery, so we don't say, wow, we are doing amazingly well. We say signs of recovery, because we know that where we are not where we need to be, because there were a lot of days of students who were missing classes, a lot of interruptions for things, and at the same time, COVID was happening. So we want to acknowledge that we are just in the recovery period. That means it's going to be the year 2022 as the recovery year. We are going to continue with writing prompts. Last year we did it 2 times a year. We are going to continue with that this year. Absenteeism and participation, I'm going to talk about what happened in the past and how we are moving to the future. Student growth, and also what we are doing as a district to move forward. Once again, participation rate in MCAS. So when the schools do not meet the 95% in participation, it's hard to calculate the growth of students. So in some cases, you will see that we work very hard to make sure that students participated in the MCAS, even though it was few days, but it was the effort of a whole team and school to make sure students were going to be able to take the test in order to see and monitor the growth. So in MCAS, this is not the yearly attendance. This is only and only for MCAS. As a district, for ELA and math and science, we made 99% attendance. And that was very high because we just were coming from the pandemic. Now we have it actually per school, and this is, we are doing the comparison because we can do it for these years 21 and 22. We cannot do it for school, for student growth, but we can do it for participation. You can see that there are stars and there are green checks. With the star means that the schools kept it the same way. With the stars is where we saw some growth. And I have to acknowledge that the high school, from ELA participation of 61%, they made it to 98%. And it took a whole team of educators, supervisor of attendance, central office, parents, and students to make it to 98. So now that's the baseline for next year for the high school, so we cannot go lower. Now we are going to the math participation, the same thing. You see the stars where they kept it the same way because they cannot go beyond 100. It would be great to have 110, but it's 100. And the same thing with the high school. It was 60% to 98. Once again, we raised the bar to 98. We cannot go back lower than that. That's what I mean by the baseline. So congratulations to all the schools. Now we are going to go with the student growth percentile. We don't compare ourselves with other districts because we have to compare ourselves to how we are doing in order to do better every single year. And we want to look at the growth of student growth with students that have an IEP of 5 or 4. Usually we don't talk about them when we talk about MCAS. We say, oh, it will be a subset. Now we want to put it out right in front in here. So in ELA, we have year 2019, pre-pandemic, and then recovery in 2022. We see that our students, we still room for improvement, but we see that the students are doing well. We just know that we had to do better. But this is very high in terms of how close we are from pre-pandemic to now recovery. Next, please. The other one is in math, and in math across the board for the district we saw some growth. And then for the students that don't have an IEP or 504 was the same, but for students who have an IEP and a 504, we saw an increase. So we know that something's working and we will continue working with that. But once again, now that we made it to 47.2, that is the baseline, so next year we have to do higher. Okay. This is for the EL students in ELA. You can see that pre-pandemic and also recovery, also we have room for improvement. Go ahead, next. This is for math. We didn't see growth for students with 504, for ELs, but we saw it for the rest of the students. Once again, this is room where we can improve our practices. Next. This, you have the entire district. You have Beebe, Fairway, Forestdale, Linden, the high school, and Salemwood. We do not have the ELC because of the age of the students. So you can see that in ELA, we had the year 2017, 2018, 2019, that was before COVID, and then 22. And you can see that we had some student growth in one of the schools, but you can also see how we did in 2021, but the baseline will be 22. Thank you. Where we saw some signs of growth, and that was in math, and that was in 3 of our schools that actually did better than pre-pandemic. And I have to highlight that Linden School actually did better this year during the recovery period than in the past or previous to the pandemic. So congratulations to that school. And once again, that's the baseline. So now we had to go higher. But we see that our math department is doing great with the teachers. Go ahead. This is very small, and I'm not going to read it all, but we can see it. These are all our subgroups where we see in math. So I just highlighted math, is where we have growth almost in every single subgroup that we have. All students, high needs, low income, and we see it also with students with disabilities, with Asian students, African American, Black, Latino, Hispanic, and also with white students. What happened last year and why we see these results during the recovery time? There was an alignment and coherence with support, accountability, and there were also support with social-emotional interventions for students. And one of the things that we had is a curriculum for math. Thanks to the Dr. Diaz, at that moment he was leading the work of adopting 2 different curriculums, and also with Kara, thank you. We see that where we have curriculum that is aligned in grades, in every single grade, we see results. So therefore, that's why you see that math is actually where we see most of the student growth. We open literacy centers, acceleration academies, and the high school implemented the early warning indicators with grade 10. This year, you can see that we will continue with the best practices that we did last year, but we focus also with ELA. Now that thanks to Victoria Mulkern and Ms. Emily Peña, we have a new curriculum from K to 8, and we are just going to expect a great student growth if there's fidelity in implementation. So I just have to say that this was teamwork, where we see signs of recovery. And I have to say that I'm very pleased to say that the signs of recovery are that we were very close to pre-pandemic. There's still room for improvement, and hopefully next year we will see actually the great student growth and not just signs of recovery, that we're actually going to see more growth in every single area. And that concludes my report to the school committee.
Thank you, Superintendent. We'll now take questions of our superintendent. Any questions of that report? Let's go to Mr. McCarthy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you actually go back to the slide for the after-school support for?
Most?
Yeah, most, yeah.
Number 5.
As again, yeah, so this slide, so is there going to be any sort of initiative going forward regarding the MCAS for like support of getting the students prepared for that, for the after-school programs, and are they just going to be, posting positions for the after-school programs, or how is that going to work?
So two things. So for most, we are advertising the positions.
Okay.
That, as you can see, we are looking for 2 teaching assistants. So we are looking for teachers because we cannot open just with volunteers. They also support with MCAS, but it's not just MCAS, it's literacy and numeracy. So what we want to make sure that if students can read and they can actually solve some problems and engage in critical thinking, they can do well in MCAS. So thank you for asking that question, because one of the things that we do MCAS prep, but that is more because it's with the computer. What we want all our students is to be exposed to high quality instruction. So if they can read at grade level, they can read at grade level, or they can, my apologies, I thought it was, sorry. They can be engaged in collaboration with their classmates. Our numbers will go up in every single thing, not only MCAS, but we are going to see more students passing the courses, being able to get to colleges, get more scholarships. So MCAS, and thank you, because I just want to share, MCAS is not the it. MCAS is a sign on what is happening in our classrooms. So therefore, if we invest in teaching, invest in curriculum, invest in professional development, we are going to see a rise everywhere. But all of our programs touch something about how to get students for MCAS, ready for MCAS, because it's with the computer. Reading and writing is something that we want to emphasize more and more in our district.
Okay.
Thank you.
And just one follow-up, if I may.
Please.
How many positions for that MOST program are you going to be posting typically?
So, right now, we have, I'm sorry, we can get back to you with that because I don't have it right now with me.
Okay.
But let's see. I can get back to you in 1 minute with that. I don't have it right now, actually. Or do you have it? I'm sorry. Yes, so our Assistant Superintendent of Diversity, Equity, and Instruction will tell us. Yes, thank you.
So we keep the positions open, and they're just open right now. So there's no limit on the number of positions that we have available. The positions are driven by the waiting list. So if we were able to hire, that's about 3 teachers at BB, so most would hire 3 teachers, would still keep it open in order to make sure that our waiting list is coming off and 0. So it's not about a limit on how many positions there are, it's about the waiting lists and the need. So right now, what the biggest need is just having people come and teach. And I'll just put a little plug in also that it's not a 5-day-a-week position. So if anybody's interested in 2 days a week, 3 days a week, feel free to apply, because MOST is very flexible and meeting the needs of kids across the week.
Okay,
So
great.
the challenge that we're facing is no staff. And we
Sure.
would love to go back to pre-pandemic, and I will bring the numbers of next time about the most pre-pandemic. There were almost 300 students enrolled in the program, but now we don't find staff. So it's
Right.
not that we want to keep that waiting list. We can't find the people to staff it with.
That's right, because, obviously that's, obviously a very important program
It
for
is.
after school and making sure the kids are getting that support, so.
It is a priority,
Right.
and I have to say that the director of the program is doing an amazing job trying to recruit people, but they're not coming. And once again, they can come 1 day, 2 days, or 3 days to work. It's not happening. So anybody over there in the audience, you can come 1, 2, 3, or 4 days so we can actually eliminate the waiting list. That will be the goal, yes.
Okay, great. I'm all set. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. McCarthy. Over to Ms. Spadafora.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just 2, I'm hoping, very easy clarifying questions. On the district enrollment chart, outside of listing each school, you also listed holding as well as private. So two rows that I haven't seen before. I see out of district, which our numbers are low, which leads me to believe that we're keeping more kids in district, which makes me very, very happy. But just curious what holding school, there's only 1, and there's also private school, there's 1.
So one of the things that we are cleaning our templates on how we code the students. So you're going to see next time also homeschool students. because we own them. So this is the work that our data analyst is doing to make sure that we actually have a specific settings of where our students are. So you will see homeschool, you're going to see private, out of district, and holding means that we are providing services for the child, for the student, but they're not coming to our schools. It's just services. It can be a speech pathologist, it can be just with the psychologist, but we are paying for the child. So therefore, it's just providing services, but it belongs to us. It's just that it's not with us. We just provide these services. So next time I'm going to actually ask Ms. Pam S., the data, Pam, to come and explain to how she's aligning everything, because our template was not clean, and we have been working very hard on this.
Okay, yeah, I'd like to see that. And if you could just clarify what private school, because I think for clarification purposes, one may look at this and say, maybe somebody going to private school to me would be private school, Malden Catholic. So would that be a student that we couldn't service here, but we're paying for them to go to a private school?
In this case, I'm going to go back because the data is how it was coded previously, and we are trying to fix it. In a way, it should say out of district and not private school, because we don't sponsor anybody to go to private settings. So thank you for highlighting that, but actually that's the cleanup. It shouldn't say out of district, and even within the district, we are going to differentiate where the students are, what schools they're attending.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. One last question, just in regards to the MCAS results and that comparison specifically for students on 504s and IEPs. Was that just straight MCAS? Does DESE differentiate between MCAS and MCAS Alt?
So yes, they do. So in MCAS Alt, we are been able to compare the data. So later on, when we go and do a deeper analysis, we are going to compare the MCAS Alt in historical version, the same way that we presented to you, but it's just that the adjustment is not very clear to us, and I don't want to present something I can explain to you how it was done. But we are going to do the same type of comparison that we are going to do when we come back with more data from MCAS. But yeah, MCAS Alt, we have it from year 1 and 2, but we want to do a historical.
And if you could provide maybe just, I don't know much data that DESE gives you, but just maybe a number of students rather than, or maybe number and percentage. I don't know if
We actually know how many students take the MCAS Alt in every single school and how they scored this year, but we want to do a historical.
Okay. And then lastly, just to touch upon, let me go back. You did an update in regards to, I thought you did. Maybe I'm thinking about the enrollment. I'll come back because I didn't write it down when you were going through it, so that's my own fault. I'll come back if I think of it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions of the members? Mr. Weldy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One question, one comment. Particularly around the NRT and the transportation update, I do want to just appreciate the fast work that your team, Ms. Spadafora, Ms. Macklin did in meeting with NRT and trying to come up with a creative resolution. I think the tracking aspect of it is really cool and very necessary, and I could see as a building principal why that would be really helpful. When do we think, if we had to guess, but when do we think that this is something that parents might be able to access to?
So let us build it a little bit more, try it a little bit more, make it more official, because right now it's being piloted at the schools, but hopefully soon. And we hope that it will also happen when they find My Bus app. But at this moment, we are not ready to do that yet because we are just trying to do it more in schools.
Thank you. I would appreciate if maybe we can, just like you did at this meeting, have it as an update at our November one as well. But the fast work on this was truly appreciated. I know parents appreciated it as well. My only other comment, particularly while listening, and I know you went through a very fast overview of the data, which is good, and you know, where we are. And as much as on a personal level, I think MCAS, I don't know, measures community wealth and access to educational resources, and highlights structural inequities more than anything else, but, and reminds me very much of what Dawn was saying during her public comment, highlighting sort of the very, very clear disparity between communities across this state. That aside, I do think it's really important in terms of narrative to highlight that when you look at that data, all we have heard very consistently is that the bar is going to be a little lower, right? That, you know, pre-pandemic numbers are here, and that, you know, no matter what, there's going to be a dip, there's going to be a wave, we're going to have to do a lot of rebuilding. And I think it should be really, really highlighted that even though there's a significant amount of work to do, that is not the story of Malden, right? That's not the story of what we're seeing in our data. And even if last year was an extraordinarily rough year for any of us who set foot in a school on a daily basis, our data is good. And our teachers and our paraprofessionals and our administrators, our ESPs, everyone should be extraordinarily proud, I think, of getting us back to those pre-pandemic levels. Because I think there are a lot of communities who are going to be pushing to get to pre-pandemic levels for a lot longer. So even though that was a quick overview, I think that's what stood out to me the most. And I know that we'll probably be covering the data more in future meetings, but that is really promising. And it was hopeful. And I'm really excited about that. So thank you.
Teamwork. Parents too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Weldy. Any other members? If I might, just from the chair real quick. Waiting list, BB Ferryway. Does that mean there's a waiting list because we are keeping the class levels at a certain number across the district? And if so, what is that number? Is it 25?
25 is what we are trying to do because it's very challenging to teach with students, with more students in the classrooms, and also how we budget the school. So that's basically.
But you're fairly confident on average we're at 25 across the district?
Yes.
Give or take?
Yes.
I know there could be one or.
It can be, yes, but that's what we are, yes.
Back to what Mr. McCarthy was talking about on the after-school program. I thought you had mentioned at a previous meeting that you were going to look into using some of the nonprofit organizations to fill the gap. If so, where does that stand?
So we are going to have a meeting next week with some of them. One of them, which we thought was going to be amazing, is that, again, staffing. We can't find the person who can work after school to represent us with this agency. So if we had anybody who would like to work 2 days a week for the district, we will be able to open that. So once again, it's based on staffing.
And on that chart, it says there's a wait list of 30, 32, I think.
32 and 32,
yeah,
yes.
32, 12, 13. If you were to hire someone tomorrow, how many would come off that wait list? Let's say you got a teacher for the BB. How many would come off the 32?
I would say
What's
10
the
to
ratio?
15, because we can have other supporters helping us in there. And we are hiring actually high school students who demonstrate that they are ready to work to support, but they cannot teach. So therefore, the teachers there, we can have other small groups.
Okay. And then on AEAP update, you said that participation had waned. Is that students, staff, both?
It's actually from the subcommittee team. We will have to recruit more people to be part of, I'm sorry, not subcommittee, of the working group. Some people are not going to the meetings. So therefore, we will have to recruit more people to be part of the working group, because that was what it was promised to the school committee, to have a working group with certain composition of parents, students. Attendance is very, very low when they meet. So therefore, we are going to recruit more people if they want to. If they don't, so that's what we're going to do. So it's no students, it's no students. It's
Let
the
us know if
adults.
we can help.
Right.
And then for the people in the audience who are watching at home, when will we get the full MCAS presentation from the state? Is that next month?
It will be next month. We just got it on the 29th. As I say, I just want to give you something because people know that it's out there, but we need, there are some groups already working, teachers and directors with Emily's trying to do more of the segregation and analysis of the data. So next month, you will get the whole packet.
Okay. And then finally, I just want to reiterate what the superintendent had said about that. Those participation numbers, really well done by all of you here and the students and the families and the teachers and everybody involved. Those are really rock-solid numbers. And I know how challenging that can be, but I want to say how impressed we are with that. And I would just like for a moment to call the high school principal up, especially where they went from, the 60, 70 percentile up to the 90s. So if I could have Mr. Mastrangelo come up for a second. I know there were 10 or 12 items listed, Mr. Mastrangelo, as to why that went from 60 to 70 to 99. I'm just curious from your vantage point, out of all those indicators, what really helped make the difference?
I think we came together with a collective effort. We identified where the issues were. We started working this well before the testing. We created a dashboard of high-needs students based on academic performance, attendance to school, attendance to MCAS in the past, and myself and the administrative team with the support of central office and support of teacher leaders and individual teachers in the testing areas started honing in, started talking about the importance of attendance. Leading up to the dates, we actually started highlighting students that need academic support specifically in the ELA and math, and used our flex block to align them with the state-aligned, standards-aligned program as an MCAS prep. Excuse me, we started caregiver outreach in home languages in the weeks and days leading up to, and we took a group of staff members at the high school that speak our languages, our native languages, and started outreach days before. We actually took some of the family liaisons. We did not have a family liaison at the high school, so central office was very supportive in bringing the family liaisons from the K to 8s for outreach leading up to, and then again, day of, making phone calls in home languages. I would be lying if I didn't say a few of the house principals and myself maybe drove to houses and brought kids to school. Went to houses the day that they missed the first test, went to the house that night, came back and picked the student up to come in for the test on the next day. So it was a team effort, and it really started with identifying where the need was months in advance. And I'd also like to say it's flannel day at the high school today, so I don't want anybody to think that I just kind of rolled out of a hike. So I was supporting our homecoming this week, so for those of you that see
with the 99% participation rate, you can wear whatever you want.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, very good. Thank you, Superintendent. And now we will go to the next item on the agenda, which is sabbatical leaves of absence. So we'll turn it over to Ms. Spadafora to lead us in this discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I think the members may recall a few months back we had a sabbatical leave of absence request. And in reviewing the MEA Unit A contract, it states under Article 22 sabbatical leaves of absence that such leave shall be granted only to personnel who are of professional teacher status in the Malden Public Schools, and the number of leaves to be granted shall be determined each year by the school committee. So I wanted to bring this before the committee for us to vote on how many sabbatical leaves we could possibly allow in the 22-23 school year.
Okay. And do you have is this going to committee, or you're prepared to make a recommendation?
I'm prepared to make a recommendation and vote on it tonight unless
members.
So, I mean, for discussion purposes, in working with the budget subcommittee, our budget chair, and as one of our own parents and ESPs mentioned in public comment, our Chapter 70 funding is well below our surrounding communities, and we're really shortchanged. On top of that, in our own budget, we have budgeted for, unfortunately, the increased cost of electrical costs are I think we budgeted an additional $300,000 on top of what we normally pay, along with gas. Everything else that I think every person living in the Commonwealth is feeling right now, the struggle. So it would be my recommendation for this school year that we would grant 0 until we see where we're at in the coming next budget cycle.
Let's see if there's a second to get that properly up before us. Is there a second for discussion purposes? So it's been seconded by Mr. Drummy. Any questions, queries, qualms, concerns about this? Mr. Weldy.
I would support this. I am a big supporter of allowing our staff the opportunity for professional growth and giving them a chance to vest themselves in the district. I think the way the contract language is written right now does not allow for us to grant sabbatical or professional leaves of absence without compensation or without tuition reimbursement. And I think we, despite voting on that, I think we found that out the hard way. So because of the way that the language is written, and with a hope that we can try to find a way to rewrite that language collectively, I would support 0 this year. We financially can't encumber that cost, I don't think.
All right, very good. Any other members? Let's go to Mr. Bernard.
Just because, first term and all, historically, how many have we historically gone and handed out every year or every few years? Do we have those numbers?
Soup, would you know that?
I don't, I have it
She
only for
wouldn't,
1 year,
yeah.
I don't have historical.
We're not sure.
Okay.
It's been less than a handful, right?
That we've approved in
Go ahead,
probably,
Mr. Weldy.
I could be wrong, but I want to say that the one we approved in the spring was, time blends together. Whenever we, spring, was the first one that I feel like we've approved in like at least 5-6 years, yeah. I'd say probably decade.
Yeah, they're far and, let me just put your mic on, Mr.
We had
Drummond.
one other request 2 or 3 years ago that we didn't
Let me
get
go
to
to,
because of time, but yeah.
Let me just put your mic on, Mr. Drummond. Go right ahead.
And I'm just saying that in the 8 years, I think, like you said, Elaine's was the first one that I've seen in a while. So it's not like it's an ongoing, or there's a line to do it. So I agree. I think until we get a better read on the language, we should, not like it's falling out, but better to hedge a little bit than worry about it later.
Okay. Just as, speaking as someone that comes from a spot where, yes, there's a budgetary thing, and maybe it should have been put into the contract, and I hope that it does get negotiated so that there's actually some sort of definitive number or dollar amount that comes to that. I still don't want to go and squash anyone that goes and has a passion for education, and if it's, I don't know if I can go and I could say yes to a 0 on this, even though it's, hey, we're waiting to go and get the numbers. I still want to go and make sure we're encouraging our teachers and paraprofessionals that if they go and they see something, and to not squash that passion for education.
Very good. Anybody else? Let's go to Mr. McCarthy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just to kind of follow up to what Mr. Bernard said, so financially, there's really no way that we could at least maybe give 2 this fiscal cycle financially, Ms. Spadafora, through you, Mr. Chair.
Please.
So the way that the language reads, 1 semester's leave of absence at full pay, or 1 leave of absence at half pay for professional improvement through the study may be granted by the Malden School Committee. So thinking about, 2 people that say they came to us and said, I'd like to take a leave of absence to further, my education. A vote from us would have us paying their salary, as well as a substitute salary to replace them in the classroom. And I don't have the exact language in front of me in the contract, but we also pay a portion of their tuition to said school. Right. So depending on the school that they choose, yeah, it's upwards of $100,000 per, and that's, like I said, based on, I don't know what school they may choose. It
Right.
could have higher tuition rates,
Right.
depending on what the teacher's salary is. So there's a
it's-
lot that comes into play, but there is a financial implication on our end.
And it is the full year, the full school year, or up until whenever?
Yeah, typically.
Typically, it's a
Yeah.
full school year?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, just to kind of piggyback off of what Mr. Bernard said, obviously, if, someone is passionate about, furthering their own education related to, degrees and anything like that, obviously, we don't want to, kind of stump them from pursuing that. But, no, I can understand from a financial standpoint, it is very, difficult. But yeah, just not to stump someone from, furthering their education and a passion for teaching kids. So, yeah, I don't know, this is a tough one, but
Okay.
I can understand it. Thanks.
Let me go to Mr. Drummy. Mr. Drummy.
Just for my own edification, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Would this be part of the language that we'd be putting in when we're doing what we're doing right now with the unions, as in
We would hope.
renegotiating the contract, so it would be ongoing from this point, going into the 22-23 fiscal year?
For the school year until something replaces
That's
what's,
fine. All right, that's fine. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Weldy.
Just for my own edification, because I feel like we're talking about different things. Anybody who wants to take an unpaid leave of absence to pursue education can still do so, yeah? Yes. So this is not about squashing anybody's, we want people to further their education. I think, to me, this was not about taking an unpaid leave to study or to enroll in a program. I think this was about, can the district afford to pay for that? So, we I think, made the collective decision as a body to offer the sabbatical leave in the spring. It was accepted, and it was accepted to offer the sabbatical without the tuition reimbursement and the half salary, and then that was challenged. And because we had given that sort of grace, that grace was taken advantage of a little bit. And so I think now we're on the hook for about $100,000. So I think what Ms. Spadafora is trying to do tonight, and I'm trying to get a handle on this myself too, is say that this fiscal year, we can't afford to pay $100 grand-ish for somebody to go to school. Because I don't know, but I mean, value statement wise, like, I'm all for people furthering their education, but if we're gonna spend $100 grand, it should be on ESP raises, not on one person's tuition to go to school. So I think that's where my head is at, is that I could be wrong, but I'm hearing this as we're saying as a committee, we don't want people to go to school, and that's not what I think this is saying. I think this is just saying this fiscal year for 22-23, we can't afford to pay for it as much as we might want to. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's where the discussion is.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, anybody else before we end discussion? Let's see here. We had the motion, it was seconded. Anybody else? And I think just from my vantage point, we heard Ms. O'Toole speak this evening, and she stated what we have been saying for the past several years, which is we need to get some support from Beacon Hill to take another look at that formula, because we are at a disadvantage as it's currently constructed. So I think we want to try to keep whatever we can here in the district. In a perfect world, we would do it. But as I've learned, we are not living in a perfect world. So, so the motion's been made, it's been seconded. Let's call the roll.
Mr. Drummy? Mr. McCarthy? Ms. Spadafora? Yes. Ms. Macklin?
Yes.
Mr. Weldy,
Yes.
Mr. Gray, Mr. Bernard,
In hopes of a better and perfect world, I have to go and vote no on this.
Understood.
Ms. Rose Zyberg. Mayor Christensen.
Yes. So that carries 6-2?
To 2.
6-2, okay. All right, the next order of business is the Supervisor of Attendance.
Oh, that's back to me. So this is just housekeeping, really, for
Okay.
us, because as everybody that's been here knows, we have a supervisor of attendance, but we did approve this in executive session, and we're just going to approve it out on the floor right now for housekeeping purposes. So
Motion.
the motion is to appoint Julio Perez as the attendance officer for Malden Public Schools.
Okay, motion by Ms. Spadafora, seconded by Mr. Bernard. Questions on that? Clerk will call the roll. Oh, please, Mr. McCarthy.
So obviously, we went through thank you very much. So obviously, we went through the whole process regarding the new supervisor of attendance that's going to be shadowing Mr. John Parsland. So financially, just down the road, are we going to be looking at, swinging someone else in if the finances deems?
Go ahead, Sue. Mike's on.
There's no plan to swing anybody in. He will be the only supervisor of attendance.
Starting in starting now
Starting
and
now
up until.
to shadow John, and in January, Mr. Perez will be the only supervisor of attendance, and we are not planning to bring anybody else in that role.
Okay. So there's going to be, starting in January, once that new person is there, it's only going to be one person for the
Correct.
entire district again.
Again, yeah, that's correct, yes.
Okay. All right, thanks.
All right, any other questions? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Drummy? Yes. Mr. McCarthy? No. Ms. Spadafora? Yes. Ms. Macklin?
Yes.
Mr. Weldy?
Yes.
Mr. Gray? Mr. Bernard?
Yes.
Ms. Rose Zyberg? Mayor Christensen?
Yes. So that carries 7-1. Okay. Now we're at personal privilege. If anybody has points, we'll take them. And then from there, we'll entertain a motion to go into executive session, starting with Mr. Drummy.
Get comfortable, people. I'm only kidding, Mr. Mayor. First off, early release this Friday is at 11 o'clock from the Fairway, and I'm assuming the entire district. Fairway PTO's fall fundraiser is starting from October 5th to October 19th. It's online only. The Cherrydale Flyers went home with the students, and Mr. Champa also emailed the households to let them know what was going on. We have Hispanic Heritage Night at the Fairway. This is going to be occurring on Thursday, October 13th, from 5 to 7 p.m. That will be in the cafeteria. They're going to have exhibits, food, games. So if you're not doing anything and you want a cheap date, head down to the Fairway on the 13th. PTO meeting on October 18th. That'll be at 5:30. That is a Zoom meeting. If you go to the Fairway PTO page, it gives you the link and everything to hook up that you can do. Also, again, because we're late in November's meeting, the Scholastic Book Fair is starting November 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. That's being run by the PTO at the Fairway. They are going to have afternoon hours on Wednesday, November 2nd only. The rest of it will be during the school time. And then last but not least, it's Election Day coming up on the 8th, and the Fairway School is having a bake sale. So if you want a cookie, brownie, or anything that you would, head down there. Fairway School will take care of it for you. And thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Mr. Drummy. Over to Mr. Bernard.
Thank you. I reached out to Ms. Van over in the Salem Wood just to make sure that they didn't get skipped on announcements. My list is slightly shorter than Mike's. Again, early release on Friday, this upcoming the 7th. No school on Monday, just a reminder for Indigenous Peoples Day. On October 22nd, the kindergarten is having a Fall Fest. So it goes from kindergarten to grade 4 for students and family, and that's a Saturday, and it goes from 11 to 1. Wednesday on October 26th is a Title I curriculum workshop, and that's at 6 p.m. And then finally the Scholastic Book Fair from Monday the 31st going to the 4th, and that's all the details that I've got on that. And then just one other thing that is kind of but not related to the schools is that the Chinese Culture Collection is having a forum on the questions that are going to be on the ballot, which includes question number 1, the Fair Share Amendment, which I've been working hard for all this summer. So if anyone is still in doubt or still needs some clarification, it's going to be online, and if you go to the Chinese Culture Connections page, they should have the information there to go to the Zoom meeting. And hope to see you people there on Wednesday.
Okay. Well said. Over to Mr. Weldy. Do you have something? I'm just going in order.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple quickies. Mr. Bernard already took one of them, so just a thank you to Amanda Maffio from the Salem Wood School for reaching out to us about the Fall Festival coming up on October 22nd. There are a lot of Halloween, I think, events happening this month, but I'm just going to highlight Councilor Barbara Murphy and I are going to be hosting our annual Ward 5 Halloween Party Pumpkin Patch at Alex Gentile Memorial Park, formerly known as Forestdale Park, on Sunday, October 30th from 4 to 6 p.m. And two quick notes that the superintendent let me know about prior to the meeting. One is that yesterday was National Custodian Appreciation Day. So I think a big thank you to all of the folks who take such good care of our students, our staff, and our buildings. And that October is National School Principals Month. So again, a lot of them are here. Big thank you to our amazing group of principals who, on top of all of the work that they do on a daily, monthly, yearly basis, also come and sit in these meetings every month, which is punishment enough. So we appreciate you more than we can express. And thank you, Superintendent Noriega, for reminding me to highlight those two things. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Ms. Spadafora.
All right, so my list just got exceptionally shorter as I've gone down the line. So early release, Indigenous Peoples Day, custodian appreciation was all on my list. So thanks to you guys. Also, October 13th is Picture Day, BB School. And I just wanted to wish those that will be celebrating Yom Kippur and Easy Fast, as well as Diwali, the end of the month. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Spadafora. Ms. Rose Zyberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to, just a quick thank you to Lyndon for having a really fun ice cream social. I ended up being able to go and help out with scooping, and despite how freezing it was that night, the kids ate all the ice cream and then had a lot of fun dancing. It was a lot of fun to be there. And just wanted to mention, make sure everybody is aware that the city is actually going to be working on creating a new playground at the ELC, which is really exciting. I was asked to be part of the group that's working on that, and we had a first community meeting to get input. I encourage everybody, if you have used the playground, if you have input on what you think needs to be done there, to be watching for the next community meeting. I don't think we have the date yet for the next one coming up, but it's a really exciting opportunity to put something in that will benefit the community and the students at the ELC.
Very good. Thank you. And we will now take a motion to go into executive session. Motion by Mr. Drummy, seconded by Mr. McCarthy. Let's take the roll.
Mr. Drummy? Mr. McCarthy? Yes. Ms. Spadafora, yes. Ms. Macklin? Yes. Mr. Weldy?
Yes.
Mr. Bernard? Yes. Ms. Rose Zyberg? Mayor Christensen?
Yes. So that carries unanimously. We will now go into executive session. We will then return to move adjournment.
Thank you, Rosetta Languages.
Recording stopped.
I got you. districts.
All right, the school committee, 1 second.
Recording in progress.
All right, the school committee is back. We'll entertain motion to adjourn by Mr. Drummy, seconded by Mr. McCarthy. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. School committee is adjourned.